From Banpresto comes a new Godzilla 1954 figure, and in two different colors. Part of the Enshrined Monster series of figures from Banpresto, this figure is up for pre-order now, with a scheduled release of November 2024. At the time of this recording, these guys popped up on BigBadToyStore about 3-4 days ago, and the moment I saw them, I knew I wanted to at least briefly talk about them because I think this is such a great stylized sculpt of one of my favorite Godzilla designs. Some of you might be thinking, wait, that series that this is a part of sounds familiar, the Enshrined Monster series. Well, you'd be right, because this is actually the same series that chibi Godzilla -1 figure released in, and if you haven't seen that, I've done a full review of that figure, but the short of that one is, it's a great sculpt at a very reasonable price, and this figure looks to be in the vein of that as well. So obviously this particular figure is Godzilla as he originally appears in the 1954 film. In this figure's case, there's the traditional black and white look of the figure, which looks excellent. And then there's a version B, which is done in this brown color scheme with some red in the mouth, white on the teeth, and the dorsal plates are kind of done almost in like a bronzy looking color. But to clarify, these are the same exact figure, just slightly different paint jobs. Now, taking a closer look at it, the thing that appealed to me here, I guess with most Godzilla figures that really appeal to me, are head sculpts. And the head sculpt on this one is excellent. It perfectly captures the look and the essence of Godzilla 1954. Yes, this is a very stylized figure, very chibified, very condensed, but much like in the vein of X Plus Defa Reels, it looks like the head sculpt here is kind of a more normal looking head sculpt, and the rest of the figure is really where the proportions are stylized to a large extent. Now, we do have some great angles here to get a full sense of what the figure will look like, and I should note that this figure comes in at about 4.7 inches tall, so just shy of 5 inches, which I think is on the mark with that -1 figure that was released some time back. I really love this front-facing angle here. We, of course, get a great sense of what Godzilla looks like from the front, but it's so cool how the eyes are just kind of darted in two directions, very derpy, very creepy. And you'll see here as we move to other angles as well, for example in this shot, that while the eyes front-facing look like they're darted in two different directions, from this side here, it very much looks like Godzilla is looking down at almost a specific person or object below him, which is so creepy. But of course, from any angle, we have that amazing creepy Godzilla smile. So front-facing and from the side here, he has a very toothy look, which is awesome. I love it. The dorsal plates are kind of done in what looks to be more so a silver color as opposed to more of like a bone white. So that's an interesting choice. And I know this is probably just the lighting, but they almost look a little bit shimmery, like glittery. I doubt that they actually are, but it looks great. And as we take a closer look at the sculpt here, I'll zoom in a little bit. This looks pretty textured. Of course, we're not going to get amazing X Plus Defa Reel details because this is a fraction of the price of those types of figures, but the sculpt looks great. Here's a shot from the back, so you can really get a full sense of what the tail looks like from this side here. It's very much swooping up, so it's an interesting angle for the tail. I like the way that Banpresto keeps these figures, at least so far, keeps them pretty condensed so that it won't take up a lot of shelf space. And from the back here as well, the dorsal plates, honestly, from this shot, almost look like they're meant to replicate when they glow in the movie. So I don't know if that's the intent behind this silver paint choice. But it does almost look like it is radiating, which is interesting. And from this side shot here, looking at Godzilla's left side, everything looks mostly the same here. We have another eye on this side, of course, that's looking down. That toothy smile. The hands look great. I didn't mention that before, but I like that hand position they chose. Very grabby looking. I will say the tail on this side, though, does look a little bit strange, especially with the way it bulges up next to the dorsal plates there. It almost looks like some form of tumor coming off of Godzilla. Maybe that's apt for what he represents, but I do wish that they made maybe a slight distinction in the color here so that it didn't look so a part of the body. You almost can't even make out the difference unless you really look for that, I don't know if it would be a seam, but kind of just the line where the tail is actually present. And again, here's a side-by-side of the version A, which is the one we just looked at, next to the version B, which is this brown color scheme of the figure. Honestly, side by side, I'm almost kind of leaning more toward the version B, this brown one, just because I'm so used to collecting Godzilla 1954 figures that stick with that black and white color scheme. At the time of this recording, I've actually pre-ordered both. I don't know if I'll stick with both of them. If I'm only going to choose one, I might just stick with this version B version of the figure. And we'll just do a quick look through of the figure because it's the same sculpt. I don't want to sit here and just do another analysis of the same thing just in a slightly different color, but I will say the two areas of interest for me are the mouth and the dorsal plates. So with the mouth here, the teeth are a very distinct bright white, which I like a lot. I love the contrast of the distinctly white teeth with that red in the mouth. There's this sort of Sofubi cartoony look to it that just looks amazing to me. And from the side here, we can get a better look at the dorsal plates. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, this version's dorsals are done in what looks to be kind of like a bronzish color. And also like the black and white one we just looked at, this one also kind of looks like it has a glimmer to it. I don't know if we're looking at a prototype or a render. I'm not sure how accurate this will look once we get these in hand. But I have to say, looking at this now, I adore this color combination of that bronze with this brown. I think they complement each other so well. And from the back, just like the other version of the figure we just looked at, the dorsals on this one also look like they're radiating. And then briefly on this side once more, the tail on this version of the figure has that same effect where it's kind of lumped together with the body, just like the black and white one we just looked at. Not a big deal. I'm sure if you really wanted to, you could touch it up with some paint to make it slightly more distinct. But that's going to really be the extent of my analysis of these figures. I think they look awesome. The price point here, at least on BigBadToyStore's listing, is $26.99, so for less than 30 bucks if you want to get your hands on a really cool, pretty detailed looking, stylized Godzilla 54, you can't go wrong with this. Speaking from experience of having the Enshrined Monster Series -1 Godzilla, I fell in love with that cute little chibi Godzilla so much as I do Defa-Reels from X+. Go ahead and get yourself one. If you don't collect stylized figures, but you've been interested in getting some, this is a great jumping off point, because they are pretty accessible in terms of pricing compared to much higher end Sofubi toys that go for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in some cases. And I guess just once more, I just got to say how perfect this head sculpt on both versions of the figure is. It is stunning. Godzilla 54 figures can be hit or miss depending on the head sculpt, but Banpresto, I have to say, nailed it so well. This is actually one of the better looking Godzilla 54 head sculpts I've seen in a while. But of course, I am curious to know what you guys think as always. Will you be getting either version of this figure? Have you already pre-ordered them? Leave your thoughts below. Would you like to see other colorways of this figure? Let me know what you think. Anyway, if you're new to the channel and you like the content, please consider leaving a like, as it really helps pump these videos out for other people to see them as well. And please consider subscribing and taking a look at my other Godzilla figure content on the channel as well. Lastly, thank you very much for watching, and have a good one.